Okay, so here we are in Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man. Oh wow, so 4K max settings, no upscaling, and we're at like 55. That's pretty impressive actually. More like 60. Let's just see what it does. So this is Ultra, like max settings. Just quality XeSS 4K. Extremely impressive on this title. I mean, look at those. Look at that. Jeez. I knew this game ran well, but I didn't realize it ran this well. Okay, well, apparently it runs extremely well. Yeah, and we'll start with XeSS off. No dynamic resolution scaling, nothing. Okay, so we're getting above 30 with the game absolutely maxed in every possible sense. Ray tracing maxed out, 4K, all the settings turned up, and we're above 30. So this is like console playable. I don't like to play at 30 when I don't have to though, so let's see what a little XeSS would. I'm sure it'll get us up to 45 or so. Don't need dynamic resolution scaling clearly in this game. I'm probably going to drop down to 45 would be my guess, yeah. Pretty good, to be honest. All right, so I mean, 4K, max ray tracing, max settings. We do have XeSS on balanced. Without balanced, you get about 30 FPS, 35 FPS, which is fine, but I mean, that's console playable. We're on a PC, so we might as well try to get 60 XeSS. So we'll go, I don't know, 6 high, sure. And that way I can maybe turn down the XeSS to quality instead. Let's see. Yep. So now we're on quality XeSS instead of balanced. Max settings, and then ray tracing's at high instead of like ultra or whatever, but this is really good. I mean, I knew that Spider-Man was going to run well. I've read and I've seen some videos from a few other people, and it ran well. But it's really good. At 4K, I'm actually very impressed with this. Not to be honest, it's really, really, really good. Okay, let's go with 1440p. Okay, so we're at 1440p. I'm going to turn all these back up again, and I have XeSS off. So we're running natively. You can see here it's off, and let's go. So 1440p truly maxed. No XeSS, ray tracing max, settings max, and we're above 60. Looks like it's dipping down to about 50. I don't think that'd be a problem. The frame rate average is extremely high, and so is the frame time is really good too. Skyrockets. I mean, we're still max. This is native 1440p. There's no XeSS right now. And ray tracing is on high instead of ultra. So ultra gets you about 55, I would say. 55 to 60 or whatever, but I'd say 55 would be your lows. Ultra everything, and then ray tracing on high natively at 1440p. You're getting 70 on low. Let's get down to the surface here. Okay, so here we are in Metal Gear Solid 5. I've had a lot of requests for this game, to be honest. So we're at 4K, and I just maxed the game. I turned off VSync, but it won't go above 60, which is weird. I think this is one of those older games where they basically lock it at 60, which is, I mean, not uncommon for the era, to be honest. But I mean, 4K 60 is fine. Yeah, so I mean, it's running perfect. I mean, it's a lock 60. There's not much I can do. There's no way of turning it up, obviously. I'm sure I could go into like the config. There's probably a way of downloading a config, or a mod file or something to get this game to run at 60. I'm sure by now someone has, configs to get it to run at 120, but I'm just testing it to show how it works. And 4K max, I mean, it's locked 60. Don't I have another gun? So this is 4K max, but no ray tracing. I actually didn't expect it to run this well. This is an extremely hard to run game. So yeah, it looks really good though, to be honest. 30 as a low, so right in between 30 and 60. So this looks, I mean, it looks fantastic. The game looks gorgeous. Let's turn on ray tracing. I don't think it's going to work well with ray tracing, but we'll see. I don't know, let's just go with medium. Let's not be crazy here. So this is basically quality mode. You know, we're at about 30. But yeah, I'm surprised that it's not dipping down more. We're basically at 30, 29 to 30, up to 35 here, and the 1% lows are fine. So you could certainly play with, sorry dear, you could certainly play with 4K max with medium ray tracing. You're not going to go any higher, obviously. We'll turn our system spec from very high down to high, and we'll turn our textures down to high, and we'll just see how that works. And we'll turn ray tracing off too. Okay, so this is 4K high instead of very high. No ray tracing. And you know, now we're getting up much closer to 60. We're about 50-ish, 45 to 50 instead of 35 to 45 or so. So people who are okay with, you know, intermediate settings, this is probably the way to go. Now we're at medium, still no ray tracing, and now we're at 60. This is how I was playing the intro. I was just at medium, no ray tracing, 4K. And yeah, it's like, now it's at 60 FPS. So for a lot of people at 4K, this is how you're going to play. 4K medium. And the textures are still set to high, so it runs fine. So it looks beautiful. But with everything else set to medium, it runs really well, actually. Okay, so now we're at 1440p. And we're at max settings. So I just used the presets and I turned everything up to max. Textures maxed. The only thing that's not on is ray tracing, so ray tracing off, but everything else is maxed. And motion blur, because I don't like it. And it's obviously performing very well now. So, I mean, it's kind of a spoiler. The game was working at 4K with really good settings, but let's turn on ray tracing though and see how it performs. So we'll just do a little ray tracing, medium, rather than very high. For 1440p max settings, but ray tracing at medium. And it's still maintaining 60 as a baseline. When you get into a lot of water areas, it might tank a little bit, but this looks pretty good. Okay, so here we are in Crysis 3, not Remaster. And I just want to basically see how it performs. I've heard this game actually is much harder to run overall. So this is 4K max. And it's funny because it's actually running worse than the Remaster. And the Remaster looks way better. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the nature of the game. So the textures are still maxed. And everything's maxed, but I just turned those extra settings down to 1 high instead of very high. And it's running way better now. It's still dipping down. Like that's 39, 40. So yeah, this is 4K with ray tracing on. You can't turn it off, but just nothing cranked. So it runs fine. We'll just go through the settings. So let's turn the settings up a little bit here. So, you know, 4K, I was playing slightly higher settings than this, and I wasn't having any problems. Some people, you know, they die to have 60, but I was fine. Okay, so now the ray tracing is turned down. Okay, so let's check out this water area with the ray tracing turned down. We're still at ultra quality here, so I mean the settings are cranked way up. Yeah, that's better. So if you max ray tracing and then come to these really watery areas, it chugs a bit, but you can still see like it is working. You can see the ray tracing there. Oh, it's actually running better than I thought. So yeah, this is ray tracing high, and the tessellation on. So the settings are turned up quite a bit. Like I said, you can't tweak the graphics, but yeah, now we have ray trace reflections on and everything. So let's see if we can tank it when we get down to the water with the ray tracing. Yeah. I mean, now we're dipping down because now it's, you know, it's actually doing the ray tracing quite a bit with the water. It looks great, but we're down at about 30 here with 30% lows. In the, you know, there's a lot of water there, so that's very playable. And then you come up here and you're up to 60, right? So, you know, when the 1% lows stay up, it's really not that big of a deal. So we're at medium 4K instead. And let's have a look over here. Yeah, so I was playing at higher. I was playing at ultra instead of medium or even high, because I was fine with that. But you know, if you want to be closer to 60, obviously medium's the way to go, at 4K at least. Because you know, down in these challenging areas, we're still up to 50 or so, and then you know, up areas here like here, you know, 60. This is 1440p ultra now with the ray tracing still off. And the game looks great. You don't really lose a ton of fidelity as you go down in settings. Let's go down by the water here. Water looks good. Now 1440p ultra with the ray tracing turned up to high. Not ultra, but ultra presets, high ray tracing, that's set to ray traced as well. Let's see where we're at here. Yeah, it didn't really drop down. When we get to the water here, it'll probably drop because, you know, we'll be getting reflections. So let's see here. Yeah, so it's dipping down to 60. So if you want to play this game on a 1440p screen at about 60 FPS, it looks like you can throw it on ultra and then turn ray tracing if you want, actually up to ultra, up to high.